Welcome to Doxa Deo City Changers.
Yes, you are worthy. You are worthy of your name. Yes, you are worthy. You are worthy of your name, Jesus. Rulers of the Son of Man, the stories of a Savior, holiness with human hands, the treasure for the traitor. No ear had heard, no eye had seen the image of the Father, until heaven came to live with me, rescue like no other. Yes, you are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy of your name. You are worthy. You are worthy of your name, Jesus.
We are talking about Monday morning in your life. And the fact is that many of us understand the Bible in a church context. And we even put our Christianity into a little church box, which to me, if we do that, is a massive, massive tragedy. Because if you consider it, most of the time of your typical week is spent at work. Now, work could be, if you're just a mother at home and you're taking care of your children, that's work for you. If you're a student in a high school, that is your workspace. The fact is, we spend 45 to 60 hours a day with those kinds of responsibilities and activities. And if God is not a part of that part of your life, I think that is a massive tragedy. You know, your work doesn't just represent the place where you make money. It's also the place where you bring your creativity to society. It's a place where you grow and develop. It's a place where you laugh and you cry and you make friends. And in some workspaces, friends even become like family. There are dreams that are represented in your workspace. And now your Father in heaven is saying, I want to be part of that. But unfortunately, it's true that there's this divide that developed in our minds, which is known as the sacred secular divide. So certain things in our lives are sacred, like prayer and evangelism and Bible study and so on. They are sacred. But then other things in our lives, we typically would say working, playing, having fun, you know, just visiting with friends. That's secular. That's just normal human activity. Unfortunately, this divide definitely is not represented in the scriptures. I want to show you some of that today and challenge that deeply in your own thinking, in your own worldview. Do you realize that God has integrated everything of who He is, who you are, and what your life is about? Everything is integrated in what is known as the kingdom of God. Can I remind you of the Lord's Prayer, for instance? So the disciples come and they say, Jesus, teach us how to pray. And then He starts with, Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Let your kingdom come, let your will be done here on earth as it is in heaven. Now, where you and I do not understand the power of those words is the fact that for us, many of us, our Father is just the father figure at home. But in the Hebrew culture of the day, the dad was not just the dad at home, he was also the patriarch or the owner of the family business, where most of the people would see him as dad and as the boss. And that integration is what Jesus was teaching His disciples to pray, is our Father who's in heaven. Not in a church sense, but our Father who lives and functions at a heavenly level. Let your name, let your reputation be glorified in my practical everyday responsibilities and activities. And then these words, let your will be done on earth. And that earth represents my normal life. It represents my workspace. It is my Monday and my Tuesday. Let your will be done here as it is in heaven. So you may ask the question, is work important to God? Much of what the church has taught has said, no, that's not important. That's just where we make money. We have to evangelize, and disciple people, and that's important to God. Well, I see something differently in the scriptures. I see that, for instance, the first thing that God gave to man, He made him in His image, He made him in His likeness. So the obvious first thing to do is give him responsibility. Give him a garden. Give him a list of responsibilities that represents what I expect of you, and I'm going to help you and grow you in your workplace. What's interesting to me is that in the story of creation, God gave Adam a wife after he gave him a job. Think about that, just the responsibility of taking care of a garden before he could say, yes, you're ready to take care of a marital relationship. So it is important to God. Jesus also affirmed and confirmed this idea in John chapter 5, verse 17, when he said, my Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working. Come on, I'm challenging you in your own mind. Could you imagine? Do you know that to work is a spiritual activity? In the sense that there's a God connection and a participation of our God in our workplace, in all regards to the job that I do. He has an interest in who I am, what I'm doing, and how I am serving the rest of society with my particular contribution. Do you see your work as important to your God? That's the question for today. And I think if we allow the scriptures to come and challenge us in this regard, we will begin to discover what the Bible means when it says in Corinthians 10 verse 31, it says, whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do, do that for the glory of God. So what the writer here does, he's got this integrated worldview. And he says, whether I'm eating or drinking, whatever I am doing, I'm actually either acknowledging the glory of God, I am making his glory more visible, or I'm actually taken away from it. That's the only choice that I have. Whatever I do is integrated in my connectedness with a spiritual Father. But the practical elements of my life displays the glory of God. And I had so many questions in my own mind when I read this the first time. I thought, how does this practically work? What does it mean? Let's just quickly go back to the Lord's Prayer where it says, let your name be glorified. Now, we understand branding today very well in society. I mean, you know that a certain company could have a name. The name represents a certain product, maybe. It represents a certain level of experience that you will have with that company. So the name of a company, the brand of a company, is intensely important in society today. And you will see that people and companies protect their name. So Jesus was praying and saying, our Father in heaven, his glory is in our hands in the way that we eat and drink and the way that we do whatever we do. The question is if you have a deep conviction that everything on this planet belongs to him. The writer in the Psalm 14, Jesus, Paul in Colossians 1, a lot of examples in the Bible talks about the fact that everything belongs to him. Every person on this planet belongs to him. And the activities on this planet have the responsibility then to forward his name and his presence and just the great story of who God is. We are telling that story with our Monday morning activities. There's this guy, Abraham Kuyper, he said the following, and I said it decades ago, but it is so incredibly true. There's not a square inch in the whole domain of human existence over which Christ, who is sovereign over all, does not cry, mine. You see it in Hebrews chapter 1. You see it everywhere that Jesus is the one through whom everything came into existence. And he wants to be the owner of it all. You and I have the opportunity to make that a reality. You know, if you look at Colossians 1 verse 16, just read it with me. It says, all things were created through Him and for Him. Through Him and for Him. That means that every level of creativity that you have, all of the desires that you have, the ambition that you have, every dimension of your humanity was created through Him. But now the question is, will you live for Him? Will you bring it back and surrender it to Him so that He can enhance that and take it to the kind of levels that He has been dreaming about in regards to your own life? So I have an intense challenge for you today. Here's the challenge. I think it is time that we decompartmentalize our lives. Decompartmentalize. When you say that in Afrikaans, decompartmentaliseer. Those of you who understand Afrikaans, it's a huge word, and it's actually so true that we put God in a little box and we say, all right, Lord, you can fit into that little box, but this part, I'll do this on my own. I don't need you there. And we've got this idea, we do it with all our relationships. So you may be married and you say, all right, I'll allow my spouse to be part of my life in this sense, in that sense, but this part of my finances, you don't touch that. There's this whole idea that we don't live integrated lives. And because of the fact that I love eating, which is quite visible, you can see, one of the dishes that I really enjoy is a good stir fry. A good stir fry is glorious because of the fact that you are mixing colors and flavors. And if you do it the right way, the right spices and veggies and chicken and soy sauce, if you do that in the right way, just the flavor and the enjoyment of that dish comes out because of great integration. So I think my challenge to you today, and I think the challenge of the scriptures to you and me, is that we take our Monday morning and our activities that we've put into our little work box and take our God and begin to mix Him and all of the flavors of my life, my personal dreams, my marriage, my work, my relationship with my children, everything, mix it together. And a stunning concept is growing out of this idea that has become known as work-life integration. Decompartmentalize your life. What that means is my job can also be a place where there is a godly mission. My job can also be a place of ministry. And with mission, I mean that you are doing what you are doing, where you are doing it, with whom you are doing it, with a godly unction. I am here because God has me here now, and He's got a plan, and I'm in partnership with my Heavenly Father to live out kingdom purposes, kingdom dreams in my workspace, including the idea of ministry. I don't just encourage people in a cell group on a Wednesday evening. I have a Monday morning opportunity to encourage people. I even have an opportunity to pray with and pray for people. And ministry in all of its dimensions includes caring for people, but discipling and growing them. People would often say, Jean, yeah, but some of the people that I work with are not Christians. Well, my understanding is that Jesus ministered to non-Christians. The whole story of Jesus is how He brought God to people who did not believe in Him yet. So even that excuse is challenged in our minds if we understand that work-life integration is God's idea. So I want to take you back to your workspace, and I want to challenge you to go and buy a bottle of soy sauce and put it somewhere so that you are reminded that I am doing stir fry on a Monday and a Tuesday. God is already there. The question is, are you integrating Him into everything that you do? May you see Him very present in every moment of your everyday as we discuss this. Amen.
All the way from the United Kingdom, from the great city of London, we've got Matt France with us, a city changer in heart, here to tell a story of how God is using him in that wonderful place. Matt, it's great to have you on the program.
It's a privilege being here.
You've been a great friend and a very strong inspiration to a lot of people, and you have a great story of how God has been using you in your ministry in London. Don't you want to just tell us of the great things that God is doing over there?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tops. It's been a fascinating few months really with us. We had this big Easter experience where we took a missional step into our community. Really wanted to take something of the message of the finished work of Christ out. So it's outside of the building. And so in all of that planning and then the doing, we really wanted to leverage something of what was taking place over Easter into the next step, into the next few months. And we thought, well, what better way to harness that than to take a resource called Not Do But Done and work through that as a church.
That's the book by Alan Platt, hey?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So it's the book by Alan Platt, and there's a resource with it. It's a DVD resource. And so we got 90 of our church partners. 90, 90? 90,
that's
yeah.
a large number in that context,
yeah,
isn't it?
in our context, we were very, very excited about that.
Okay.
And so it was a great opportunity just to journey again through this phenomenal truth. And anyway, we facilitated that through groups, and what was really interesting was this one day, a lady in our congregation, a partner of ours, approached me and asked me, look, how do I take this into my work environment? I think it's very easy that we forget what Paul writes in Ephesians 4, that each one of us are graced with a gift. Each one. It's not just the person at the front.
Few selected people.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's everyone. And this woman, this partner of ours, recognized that there's something that she has an opportunity to share in a working environment. And so we sat together and we chatted through, and it was an opportunity to influence.
And inspire her.
Yeah, and
to
inspire,
take it further,
and to really stir her as a city changer in her environment. And what actually happened through her action was she took the resource into her working environment, invited a few of her colleagues along to a lunchtime. She had, I think, 3 or 4 names at the beginning, so she was going to be a small get-together. And all of a sudden, 15, 18 people turning up every week in a lunchtime to work through this resource, where it wasn't just, a nice help, encouraging, inspiring resource. It was truth. It's foundational to who we are, foundational to our identity. And just seeing her with so much joy fulfill something of, the
city changer.
The city changer. And
but Matt, that is puzzling in a way, because I've lived there for many years. And I've heard of so many people commenting that if you want to get someone in London, because it's a little nation of its own, hey, if you want to get someone to be interested in the gospel, it takes 4 years of having a conversation, from just being interested in religion as a topic, and then hearing, the personal meaning of believers and what truth has done for them. But here, somebody's been obedient to whatever she experienced, and you are saying that 15 to 18 people just respond to invitation. Yeah.
It's an openness.
That's fantastic.
I think we can't underestimate how the truth in that phrase of God meets us at the level of our expectation. And for her expectation was to bring some of her colleagues into that environment and hearing that word, and just seeing that come into fulfillment. But it wasn't just now this course that took place, Tops. The fascinating thing is that us on team, again, Paul's words, we're given the opportunity to equip the saints for works of ministry. We had that moment to encourage her as an individual, but also to be invited into the environment ourselves. So some of us on team have actually visited her office.
At our workplace?
Yeah, at our workplace, and shared something of story and life as well, and just see that environment. It's been really, really great to do that. And beyond that, we're now in conversation about her organisation. She actually works for the Bank of Ghana in the centre of London.
Wow.
speaking with the Bank of Ghana about how to affect some of the systemic brokenness that we see in London through bringing people into places of employment. So how do we do that alongside this large organisation? And that's all because one person said, I want to take something of the message into my workplace. Something so small that we might think is so small. And but it's had much more impact than we could have possibly imagined.
I wonder how many people listen to this. And it's probably feeling, it's great for her, but not at my workplace. But if you hear a bank in the center of a first world country that not only has employees responding, but suddenly has the whole company being aware of a greater purpose than money making, but benevolence in the community as part of the expression and existence. Isn't that the core of city changing and how it should be?
It is such a story that we're celebrating at the moment. It fills us with a lot of joy. And we really want to see people just take those small steps. Because it is about just being obedient, as you said just a couple of moments ago. And obedient in the little things, just the small steps. And trusting God for Him to go and do what He needs to do and wants to do in those environments.
I wonder how many people sit with ideas and saying, Lord, is this really from you? And will I be able to have any significance? I'm a receptionist, or I'm an administrator, or I clean the place, or I'm the big boss, but I can't do that. But I think this motivates me to find those people in whatever environment I find myself and say, Lord, how many of these people can we inspire to just take that dream, saying, Lord, if I give my little bit, then you will just, for His glory only, transform a whole organization and a city as people are just responding to these urges.
And you and I and anybody, we shouldn't underestimate the moments of influence.
Matt, this is so inspiring. To God all the glory. Thank you for being part of that story.
What a privilege.
And I would love to hear more of those as the years go on. But thanks for being on the program. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.